What's good, YouTube? Nate from the Metacall here, back again. This week's video is a very important video for myself just because of the deck that I'm going to be profiling for you. This past weekend I was able to go to Lenexa, Kansas and go to a regional. Now since I already had my invite, it was just kind of a mess around, have fun kind of day for myself as well as trading wise. So I decided to take a deck that I really like playing and I just think is very unique and nobody else has been playing it. The deck that I'm playing is called the Super Frog Monarch deck. Now it's made this way, as you can look at my mat here, because it's based around superheroes and supervillains with the frogs. Now I'm going to go on and show you all the cards in the deck. Now sadly I wasn't able to actually use my altered cards in the regional because they were considered marked and I would have gotten in trouble. So as of right now I can only use them at locals and at small events instead of bigger events like regionals, YCSs, and nationals. But I'm going to be working something out, so hopefully I can use them at Nats when I go there next summer. We're going to jump right into the video. Get it? Jump, frog, okay. And I'll show you the cards. Now the first three cards of the deck are obviously all about frogs, and they're one of the main frogs that you use in the deck that really helps get this engine going. The first three frogs that you play are Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Batman, also known as Swap Frogs. We're playing 3 Swap Frog. Now this card is really important for the deck because it's able to dump the other frogs into the grave and get everything going. It's also very important because you can use its swap effect as a cost and take Monarchs back from the field to your hand and be able to summon them again, so you can use their effects over and over and over again. Now the next two cards we play are one Riddler and one Penguin. Now these two cards are also very important because they are known as the searchers of the deck, and they're able to search out your swap frogs, which you can then use to dump the next two cards in the deck, Deadpool and Deathstroke, which are your Ronin Totems. And these cards are also very important because they are the ones that special summon so you can get your tributes off. Now like I said, I couldn't actually use these in the regional because they were considered marked, because I guess you can kind of feel the cards. Now since the regional has happened, I've also found out that I could have used the cards, but that's just another thing that happens. Now like I said, I couldn't use those cards, so I ended up having to use the naked frogs that I have right here, which is very sad indeed. And I think that's maybe why I did so bad, is because I wasn't, that into the deck anymore. The last frog that we actually play in the deck is one Treeborn Frog, just because you are playing with frogs and you really want to be able to get those special summons going and tribute them off real quick. Now that card is not a Superman, just because I already have one on the mat and I didn't think that I needed to have another one because there is only one Superman, as well as because it's an ulti. Moving on to the Monarch portion of the deck, we're playing with 3 Caius the Shadow Monarch, which is really the main Monarch of the deck. It's the one that's able to banish everything and get rid of problem cards that are getting in your way. The next cards we're playing are 2 Rise of the Storm Monarch. Now this card is really good for putting your opponent back a few steps because it's able to put some cards back either to the extra deck or on top of the deck. So if you know it's a dead draw and they're just setting it to get rid of it out of their hand, you can put that card back on top of the deck and put them back and even an extra more turn so you can actually do some more damage to them. The last Monarch we're actually playing is Mobius, the Frost Monarch. Now this card right here is really good for getting rid of floodgates, whether they be Macrocosmos or they be Defissure or Vanities, whatever it may be that you need to pop. This card is really good at doing that because it's able to pop 1 or 2 back row that your opponent controls. Coming next, we've got 2 Majesty's Fiend, because it is a level 6, so it can be tribute summoned, as well as it's just a really good card that can get everything going for you, and it obviously stops your opponent from doing anything. It's also very good because we do play Return of the Monarchs in the deck, and it's searchable because it has 2400 attack and 1000 defense, just like the Monarchs. Now the last tribute monster that we have in the deck is 1 Sea Lancer, because we are using frogs and we are going to be banishing them with Ronin Totem, and if they have Defissure or Macro on the field or they end up banishing them, we have ways to get them back and be able to reuse them and recycle them later on in the duel. That way we don't run out of stuff, because if it does get into a grind game, we're most likely going to lose. Now moving on from the Monarchs, we are playing a few hand traps, which also help you tribute, in the form of 3 Battle Fader. Now Battle Fader is really good because it stops all the OTK decks right now, because I know the Quillforts really like to OTK, as well as one of my friends was playing Gurgia Karkuri, and that can really OTK you real quick, and this is able to stop that. As well as after that, it ends the battle phase, they're most likely going to end their turn, and then you can tribute it off during your turn for one of your Monarchs. The last 2 monsters that we play in the deck are 2 Ghostrake Jack Frost. Now this card is a really good card, not only because it flips your opponent's card face down and then special summon so you can tribute it later on, but also because it doesn't target. So if they have something like Bujin Yamato on the field or something with the Bujin, they can't use Turtle. You can't, anything that says this card cannot be targeted, this doesn't account for that. So it can flip it face down and then special summon itself. And one really cool thing that I found out from my buddy Johnny, if they have vanities on the field or you have vanities on the field and they attack, you can reveal this and then turn their card face down, but you won't special summon. So they can potentially attack 5 times, and you can flip their cards face down 5 times. Because they can't special summon, but that's just what you would do if you flip it face down. So you can still flip them face down even if you don't special summon. So that is with the monsters. We're going to be moving on to the spells. The first thing that we're going to be showing is the Monarch Stormforth. Now this card right here, I think, is what really makes the deck good. Without this card in the deck, I don't think that could be playable at all, just because there's just too many cards that your opponent can get out that you can't get around. This card also doesn't target, so you're able to get rid of things that don't target, as well as other things. So it's really good to be able to tribute your opponent's monster, summon your Monarch like Ryza or Caius, then use their effects and either get rid of another monster or another card on the field. So it really puts them back in very hard ways. Now those aren't the only Monarch cards that we play in the deck. We're also playing 2 Return of the Monarchs. Now this card, when you tribute summon a monster, you can add 1 2400 attack and 1000 defense monster to your hand, or a 2800 attack and 1000 defense to your hand. So you can potentially add, a Majesty's Fiend, a Caius, a Ryza, a Mobius, or if I was playing the 2800, I could add a Dark Arm Dragon. I could add any of the Mega Monarchs to my hand. Now the last 2 Monarch cards that we're playing is Return of the Monarchs. Now this card says that tribute summon monsters that you control cannot be destroyed by card effects and can't be targeted by card effects. So if you're able to get out a Majesty's Fiend, per se, your opponent can't activate monster effects, they can't target him, and they can't destroy him by card effects. So they pretty much have to figure out a way to get rid of him around those ways. So it pretty much ends up being Shadal's having to make Construct. So it really puts them backwards a little ways, because they have to skip 3 effects, the 2 that they send, as well as Construct's effect, to even get him out to try and push over you. Now along with these, we usually aren't going to be special summoning all that often. We do because we can tribute summon, but if we have the Monarch Stormforth in our hand, or Soul Exchange, we can actually we don't even have to special summon that turn. So one really good card to play in this deck is Pod Duality, so we play 2 of them. This card really helps build your hand, because you can get ready for plays later on, either the next turn or a couple of turns later. Or you could add a Monarch to your hand if you already have Stormforth, or you can add Stormforth to your hand if you already have a Monarch, because then you can tribute their monster and summon yours, so you don't even have to special summon that turn. So yet again, it's just another way to help set up your hand. Now along with the Monarch Stormforth, I felt like I didn't really have enough tributes to get rid of all their monsters, so we do play 2 Soul Exchange as well, just so we have even more ways of getting rid of their monsters and getting our monsters onto the field, because that's essentially what we want to do. Now the last 2 spells that I play in the deck are 2 Forbidden Lance, because I have realized that sometimes if your monster gets onto the field, they can bottom sit, they can warning it, they can Trenchel, and this is a really good way, besides warning, to stop that from happening, especially if you have Return on the field, because Return says that you can add a monster to your hand, but the monster you summon has to stay face up on the field for this effect to resolve. So if you summon it and then they destroy it, you don't get that effect, so you don't get a search, which could push you back a little ways and allow your opponent to try and catch up or make bigger plays, to try and move around you and outmaneuver you. So those are the last 2 spells that we play in the deck. Now if you're counting right now, that's only 35 cards in the main deck so far. We're playing 5 cards, which are traps, which usually Frog Monarch decks don't play, but I'm stupid and crazy, so we do it anyway. Our first 2 traps are Escalation of the Monarchs. This card, when it resolves, you can immediately, during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, tribute summon a monster. So you can either do it when they're attacking your monster, you can tribute your monster, summon a Ryza, shove their monster back to the top of their deck, summon a Caius, or banish their monster. Or you can do something really cool with the Monarch Stormforth, activate both of them, and then tribute their own monster during their turn, which I think is a really cool way to help get rid of your opponent's monsters. And if you have a Return on the field, you can add during their turn as well. So it's just a really good way to get around a lot of different things. Now when playtesting this deck over and over and over and over again, I really realized that there are a lot of things that could really push this deck back. And a lot of those being traps, because they can really stop this deck in its path. So I was trying to think of a way that this deck could possibly stop that from happening. And at first I thought 3 traps then would do the trick, because if you trap stun their traps, then they can't really do anything. But then I realized, hey, if you trap stun them one turn, they're going to be ready to go the next turn again. So instead of maining trap stun, I decided to go ahead and main 3 Royal Decree. That and because I always seem to have these hacks where I always open up row of decree in my opening hand. And everybody seems to hate that. So I decided to run 3 row of decree and just stop them in their tracks before they can even get started. Now that is the main deck. We're going to go on to the extra deck because this does use an extra deck, even though some of the cards in it, like Return of the Monarch, says you can't use your extra deck, because usually they're going to try and get rid of those with an MST or a Twister or any other way they possibly can as soon as possible, because if you're able to keep adding to your hand, you just keep your momentum going and they really can't stop you. So with the extra deck, we're playing 2 rank 1s. We're playing 1 Ghost Trick Dualahan and 1 Slacker Magician. I really like Dolan here because if you have a Ghost Trick in your grave and this gets destroyed, then you can add that Ghost Trick Jack Frost back to your hand, and then you can reuse it the next turn, so that's really good. Then for rank 2s, we're playing 2 Gachi Gachi, because Gachi Gachi you obviously have to play in a frog deck. Helps boost up all your Monarchs as well as your Sea Lancer. Then we're playing 2 Herald of Pure Light, which I think is a really good card for this deck, because you can special summon, you can toss a Ronin, especially your swap, toss a frog, special the Ronin, make Herald of Pure Light, add a Caius back to your hand, shuffle one random card back into your deck, summon, then tribute this Herald of Pure Light for Caius, and then banish their monsters. So it's just a really good way to add things back to your hand that you may need later on. We're also playing 2 Daigusto Phoenix, just because I feel like it's a really good card in this deck, because yet again you can have wins like Ryza attack multiple times, as well as itself, so it's a really good way to OTK. And with Ryza, you can send their monster back to the top of their deck, so then they have an open field, then you can bring this out, and then you attack for 48 plus 15, instead of just, 24. Then we're playing 1 rank 4 in Downer Magician, because you can push this over the top of any of your rank 2s in your main phase 2 if you feel like you need a little extra protection or your attack isn't that strong. And then finally we're playing 3 rank 6s. Photon Strike Bouncer, Sword Breaker, and Gauntlet Launcher. I felt like these 3 were the most beneficial rank 6s I could use. I never actually used them at all during the day, because I didn't find myself having a time where I thought that having a rank 6 would be better than having a Monarch on the field. As well as I don't play Gaia the Thunder Charger, just because I felt like if I never really made this, I didn't really need that, and I just didn't want to put it in the deck. So those are our last 3 cards for the extra deck. That is the entire deck as of right now. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe and share this video as well. All your love and support is greatly appreciated. Yet again, I don't really do this for money, this is all just for fun, so anything that you can give back really helps me and really gets me in the mood to make even more videos. So if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please let me know down in the comments what you think I should change around the deck. I am making a few changes about this deck right now, and I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do with it and where I want to go with it, because I do want to continue with this deck. I'm just making a few changes, quite a few changes actually to it. So that's all I've got for now, guys. Like I said, thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me your time. I greatly appreciate it. This is Nate from the Medical, signing out. Peace.